tractor's got a pretty severe throwout bearing issue. Alright, so you can tell that throwout bearing's bad. It makes a pretty bad noise. And this tractor's got a few other issues too. The first one being the 3-point shutoff switch right over here. That does not move at all, so the PTO is always spinning, which isn't a big deal for me, but that should be fixed. Alright, so on here there's these loader. This thing did have a front end loader. I bought this thing back in March and it's been sitting at my house. And you know, now it's whenever, and it's finally getting done. This is the thing that supports the whole front end loader. This is like directly underneath the motor and the transmission. So once this is off, this is on both sides. It'll be pretty easy to see. It looks like there's only there's 8 bolts on each side, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. You guys in a good spot, I guess. Alright, I'm going upstairs for a little bit. Alright. You good? No. Alright, so these are the loader arms. And like there's a cross member that goes across the back end of it too. Yeah, the fuel tank and the whole wiring harness, they were kind of connected and I didn't want to unplug anything, so unplug like a bunch of little stuff that was like connected to the, the dashboard. So I just kind of pulled it all over here since there was so much extra. Alright, YouTube world, so now almost everything underneath is disconnected that I can disconnect. The front drive shaft I'm kind of hoping will just slide out, and then there's a bunch of hydraulic lines I got to undo, but before I do that I'm going to make the stand that's holding up the front of the motor. Alright, so this line ended up draining the whole transmission. Just watch the stand. Alright, you roll a little, I'll pry. It's going to hit your oil pan or something. That's fine. Front's moving. The front's moving. That's funny. That's fine. As long as something moves, right? Yep. There it goes. This wheels are. Oh, no they aren't. They're moving. Alright. Alright, so the clutch is off over there. It's kind of weird. The pilot bearing is also bad in here. And for some reason there's a bunch of oil everywhere, but we're trying to figure out if we can resurface this flywheel or we gotta take it somewhere. So there was a bunch of oil in here, but there was nothing around the main seal. So I think something from the transmission might be leaking into here. I'll have to look into that, but I've got to get a new clutch. That's heavy. I hope I can just buy this whole thing because it looks confusing to take apart. Okay, internet. So what the situation now is, if we just put a new clutch in here, we'll probably have oil over it. And we don't really know if it's because it was overfilled, because there's bad seals back here, or what. But currently, the pilot bearing's going to come out. And what I'm doing is disconnecting the main bearing, the throwout bearing, from its like housing. Probably the wrong way.
This is what seals it.
I don't know.
That was in there.
Okay. So when I opened this thing up, there was a bunch of the super hydraulic universal fluid, whatever's in this transmission. And it was all in here and leaking, and it was all over the clutches. So this was taken apart, and then what we're hoping is if we clean out all this dirt that's on here and back in the transmission, this might be able to seal up right again. And I have a new seal and bearing for in here, so. Okay, so pretty much what's happening now is I got I got new seals in this. This is for the complete cover for the PTO shaft coming. No, yeah, for the PTO shaft coming out of the transmission side, because there's two shafts in here. This is the PTO shaft, so there's new seals that go onto this, and then this thing on the inside is the other shaft, which connects to the that's the actual transmission, not the PTO. So I got new seals for that. So that should be everything except for actually putting the clutch in. Just kind of resurfaced the flywheel quick because it wasn't that bad. Maybe I'll have to do some cleaning up in here, but there really isn't too much left in here. Once these seals are in, which they just pop in, there's nothing I gotta press in or anything. It should be pretty easy. Okay, so here's the spot we're at now. This whole clutch pack is not really tightened down so that the two discs in there can move a little bit. What we're gonna try and do is fully put it together, like that way they can it might be able to align itself. Then we'll bring it back apart, tighten it. But even now, I'm having trouble putting it back together. I got two ratchet straps on each side, so it's quite the experience. Okay, so I skipped a little bit on the filming, but what we have now is a tractor that is put together here. What we had to do is what was screwing me up was the 4x4 shaft. So I dropped that. We dropped that down from the rear end, and it actually just slid right together. We had two ratchet straps on each side, and we ratchet strapped it back together, and that worked pretty well. And then we had the silicone. Like, it's kind of a weird, not weird, but it's like a drop-down box for the 4x4 shaft that runs up. But right now it's all put together, so there's a clutch adjustment you do right through this hole. Gotta look up the specs on that. Okay, YouTube world, so what we got going on now is a tractor with no hydraulic fluid in it. So what I don't know is when I took off that four-wheel drive thing down there is if when we were putting it back together there was a seal that got smashed, because clearly there's fluid that could drop right down if there was no shaft in there. So I'm going to fill it up with like a gallon of this tractor fluid. It takes about 10 gallons. I'll put a gallon in because that's the lowest point. If there is a leak, it will leak. So alright, while I'm at it, I've been very, very low on front gear oil for a long time now. Oh, it's nice now. Alright, so this is the hood. You're going to be looking at this most of the time while you're driving. It looks terrible now. I was kind of die grinding some of the spots, but it was taking a while and it's kind of like really wearing down. So I got similar to a palm sander, just on the vibratory tool. And then I'll do this, prime and paint it. Okay, so I've got just enough dash put together to drive it, I think. I don't remember how any of the wires went together, but that's okay. Oh, the switch was pulled off the starter. I think the terminal was broken off the starter. Good. Okay, so now this thing's all washed. It's pretty good. We'll get some of the body panels painted, put them on, and then I gotta work on the loader. Alright, YouTube world. So, pretty much everything's on here. I just got the side panels off because I was doing a little bit of the wiring for my new lights. Got a switch right there, a bunch of pods, and a light bar down there. But what I'm running into now is, last night I noticed that the drain plug had some hydraulic oil underneath it, even though for some reason it was dry for a week. And then I just put some Teflon tape on it, and I drained it, and then refilled it. And now there's like a crazy puddle just overnight. So, I gotta figure that out. But I brought the loader over here, pressure wash it, and I'll put it on. But obviously I can't sell it like that with that leak. Okay, so while that leak was only in effect when the PTO shaft was, the PTO selector switch was where it was when it was like stuck forever. It didn't leak then, but then I kind of lost all the clutch, and then took a camera first and a magnet just in the belt housing, and one of the bolts came out, just like the old clutch. You can see there's 1, 2, and then it's missing the third one. I'm gonna try and get this thing split tonight. It's like 5. Hopefully I can do that soon. I'm gonna try and use the 2-post lift to get this loader off. Yeah. This is quite the thing. Oh well. Okay, so what I'm at now is I got this thing off that shaft. I had to heat it up and use the air hammer. This shaft has a lot of pitting on it, so I gotta sand that down, and I should be able to put the seal in really easily. Put the actual Kubota bearing in here. And then I got my 3 bolts that I'll have to like shave down the heads on them, and then I'll weld them to the 3 prongs, but we should be pretty good.
Okay, so this was that reason why it was actually leaking in the first place. So I replaced that seal on this PTO selector shaft, and I put grease on it, sanded down the pitting, so hopefully it won't leak again. And I welded those 3 bolts that the clutch bearing presses into this time. So I'm hoping that they won't back out. There's no reason for them to back out. And of course, there's the real clutch bearing in here now, so it should be good to go. Alright, so everything on this Kubota is pretty much done. And luckily, with it sitting about a week, no puddles underneath the bell housing or the 4-wheel drive thing that I had to silicone. The only thing that has a small puddle, which is right there, is one loader coupling. That one at the far right. But I've known about that for a pretty long time. Not sure if that's something I should fix or not, because it's not really a big deal. But this tractor is going to serve somebody pretty well. It looks a lot better than it used to. Should perform a lot better. Yeah, the only thing left to do with it now is just drive it a little bit more than I did right after I fixed it. I don't necessarily have any ideas on what I can do with it right now. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, move some stone, do something.
Yeah, try to knock that tree down. Like dig under it. got a bucket full of dirt. This video is 10 minutes already. Watch it, watch it. Get that line. You're down in that hole what are you trying to do with it? Ben, you got other trees getting ready to fall now. Straight ahead of you too. You knocked that one down.